So right before we move on to the dictionaries, let's tackle something very important, and that's our loops. Now, a loop simply means a repetition, right? So if we look at an example of from when we our schooling days, right? You wake up and you do the same thing over and then over and over again. At least when life used to be very simple. So that's an example of a loop, something you do over and over and over and over again. Now let's go over a classic example, and that is printing numbers, right? Now let's look at an interval from maybe 1 to 100, right? Now, the traditional way to do this would have been to print 1, and then you are supposed to print 2, print 3, print 4, 3. You can see the headache with this, right? This is not going to get us anywhere. You understand? So that's where our loops are going to be coming in. Our loops are going to help us achieve all of these tasks really easily, right? Good. So now I believe that we have already studied about our lists, and then we practice with fruits. So again, let's just make a replica of our fruit lists. I remember we had an apple, we had some banana, and then I think some guava, and I think some guava, and I think some guava like this. Good. So before we do our for loops, let's assume we want to print. We want to print everything that we have in our fruit list over here, right? Now, usually that would be something like we print fruits at index 1. You know the indexing we did and all of that. Yeah, so traditionally this is what we are going to do. We are going to do this for index 0, index 1, and then index 2. But let me just go ahead and run 2, and then we'll see that it actually works. But it's not the best way. Good. So this is how it's going to be. So if I add another line and I put 1 and I put 2, we are going to be able to print everything. But that's not really ideal for us. So what will be ideal for us is to use our for loop. Good. Now with our for loop, this is the structure. So we say for something in fruits. Good. So if we study these statements critically, we are saying for something in fruits, right? Good. What do we notice? We notice that this is identical to this because that's where we are looking. We are looking inside of this fruit list. I hope that makes a lot of sense. Let me go over it again. We are looking inside of this fruit list right over here, and then we are saying for something in fruits. Now this character over here can change into whatever you deem fit, right? So we know this is a list of fruits, so we can say for fruits in fruits, and then here you be good like that. I personally think this rather is confusing, but that is the convention, so let's just follow it, right? Now for fruits in fruits, we are just going to print our fruit. I'm going to run, and you can see that we have printed everything over here. So simply what this does is initiated a loop, a condition, right? So for fruits in fruit, so for everything over here, this is it in action, right? We go to an apple, we say, okay, this is something, let's print it, and then we printed an apple. And then went to banana, it's still something, it counts, let's print it, and then we printed it. Went to guava, it's still a fruit, so let's print it, and then we printed it. Yes, so that's an example of your for loop in action. A very simple example, but yes, that's an example of your for loop in action. Yes, good. So that's an example with our fruits, right? Now I'll be very naive to not mention this. So we have another way of looping, right? This has to deal more with numbers. So we can say for I in range. Now right off the bat, you can see range. So let me hover over this and see if we can have. Okay. Good. And when we look at this statement compared to this other statement, we find that they have a lot in common. At the same time, they do not have a lot in common. So for fruit. This time we say I. Now usually I is for integer in a range, so we are supposed to specify a range now. So we say 10, right? And you say print I, just like we are printing fruits. So again, this is going to go over, and then we say okay. So I now at default range starts from 0, right? So we go to 0, and then we say okay, let's print that. We go to 1, we say let's print that. We go to 2, we say let's print that. You get what I did, just like we did for this. Now let's go back to my first example where we wanted to print from 1 to 100, and then let's try that straight ahead. So when I run this, you can see we have, when I run this, you can see that we have 99 over here. Yes, so with range, the last term is not inclusive, as you will find with Python. Generally, the last terms are not really inclusive. So if I change this to 101, I'm going to have 100 inclusive. Yes, I'm going to have 100 inclusive. Now let me actually check the first code. Yes, like I said, range default from 0. Yeah, so that will be it for loops for the purposes of this lesson. That's a for loop in Python.